Everything we have ever known exists right here on this small blue marble. Every moment in history we have learned about, every important person, our entire ancestry, everything, right here. This picture is the only image of the entire Earth taken by a human being. It was taken by Harrison Schmitt on Apollo 17, the last crewed mission to the moon. Our planet is the only body in our solar system that we know contains life. There are only 3 other terrestrial planets with rocky surfaces like our own that could host life, but the chances are slim. However, there are 210 moons that we know of in the solar system, many of which tell their own story. If we limit the search for life in our star system to just planets, the outcome is nearly guaranteed to yield no results for life. But if we look just a little further to examine the moons of our solar system, we may just find promising results. Firstly, let's start with a basic overview of the 8 planets we all know and love. Mercury, the closest to the Sun, has a radius of 1,516 miles, and its gravity is 3.7 meters per second squared. Its average distance from the Sun is a mere 36 million miles, or 2.8 light minutes. Earth itself is 93 million miles, or 8 light minutes away from the Sun, which means that Mercury is far too close to have suitable temperatures for life. The temperatures on the surface of Mercury range from negative 180 degrees Fahrenheit on the dark side to 800 degrees on the side facing the Sun. One day on Mercury lasts 59 Earth days, as the planet rotates much slower than we do. Also, due to the close proximity to the Sun, it takes 176 days for the Sun to appear in the same part of the sky on Mercury. A year on this planet is 88 Earth days, meaning that one rotation of the planet takes almost as long as it does for the planet to complete an orbit of the Sun. There have been 2 past missions to Mercury, Mariner 10 and Messenger, but right now there's a new spacecraft created by the European Space Agency and the Japanese Space Agency called Bepi Colombo that's planned to have 2 flybys of Venus and 6 of Mercury before entering Mercury's orbit to further study the small planet. Mercury has a thin atmosphere composed of hydrogen, helium, oxygen, sodium, and potassium. This atmosphere is created by harsh solar winds and micrometeoroid impacts. The chance for life on Mercury is basically none. There's too great a temperature change between the light and dark sides of the planet, and the atmosphere is not strong enough to protect from the harsh radiation of the Sun. Mercury is too far inside of the red part of the habitable zone to have a chance to sustain life. Venus, the sister planet to Earth, is the hottest planet in the solar system. It's hotter than Mercury despite being further away due to its thick atmosphere that causes the greenhouse effect. Its radius spans 3,760.4 miles and has a gravitational pull of 8.87 meters per second squared. Its average distance to the Sun is 67 million miles, or a mere 6 light minutes out. At the surface, this planet reaches a scorching 870 degrees Fahrenheit on the side facing the Sun, which is hot enough to melt lead. Something very interesting about this planet is its rotational period. One day on Venus is 243 Earth days. What's even more peculiar is that the orbital period of the planet is only 225 Earth days, which means that a day on Venus is longer than a year. This is explained by its incredibly slow rotational speed, only 4 miles per hour at the equator. Our planet's day cycle is 24 hours, which means that we rotate 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. So theoretically, if you were on the equator of Venus, you could run faster than the planet itself is rotating. There have been several missions to Venus, including Mariner 2, Venera 8, 9, and 10, Magellan, and flybys from Galileo and Cassini. Life on Venus is an impossibility. The staggering temperatures, combined with a crushing atmosphere composed of carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and sulfur dioxide, make for an incredibly hostile environment. However, theoretically there is a place in the atmosphere, about 31 miles above the surface, that has cool enough temperatures that could support short-term airborne life, but it is not likely. Mars is currently the hot topic of space exploration. It lies just inside the outer edge of the habitable zone, meaning that humans could very likely live here long term. With a radius of 2,716 miles and a gravitational attraction of 3.711 meters per second squared, it's significantly smaller than our home planet. Mars is an average distance of 134.85 million miles, or 13 light minutes away from the Sun, and its surface temperature ranges from negative 243 degrees Fahrenheit at the poles to 68 degrees at the equator during summer. This planet has the most past missions and spacecraft sent to it in the solar system. To date, 57 missions have been attempted, but only 30 succeeded or partially succeeded. This means that we have only a 53% success rate with Mars, which are not good odds for sending humans there in the near future. The chance for life on Mars is pretty good. Humans would definitely be able to survive for long periods of time with the right resources, and there is a good chance life did exist on Mars earlier in the solar system's history. In recent news, SpaceX is completing several tests on their Mars rocket, Starship. They are currently building the 8th prototype of this rocket and are planning to perform a static fire test relatively soon. This test consists of strapping an engine to the ship, holding it down and firing the engine to make sure that the fuel tanks and engine are working together correctly. After this, we should see a flight test coming soon. Next is Jupiter, the largest of the planets and the start of the gas giants. Between Mars and Jupiter lies one of the solar system's 3 asteroid belts. This one is appropriately named the asteroid belt, and holds the largest dwarf planet, Ceres, as well as potential for future asteroid mining colonies. Jupiter has a stunning radius of 43,441 miles and a crushing gravity of 24.79 meters per second squared. Its average distance from the Sun is 482.12 million miles, or 43 light minutes, showing how big of a gap there is between the terrestrial planets versus the gas giants. The clouds of Jupiter are quite cold, around negative 234 degrees Fahrenheit, but in the core of the planet, convection from liquid and plasma hydrogen generate unbelievable 43,000 degree temperatures, which is hotter than the surface of the Sun. Jupiter rotates once on its axis every 9 hours and 56 minutes, making it the fastest rotating planet in the solar system. Jupiter orbits the Sun once every 12 years, again showing the difference in orbital distance between the next closest planet, Mars, which has an orbital period of less than 2 years. Past missions to Jupiter include Voyagers 1 and 2, the Galileo probe and orbiter, and the current NASA probe Juno that has been active since 2016. Chance for life at Jupiter is basically impossible since it is a gas giant, but its 79 moons could potentially host temporarily life. However, this is unlikely due to Jupiter's intense radiation and magnetic field. Something interesting about Jupiter is that it has a ring system, only visible from behind the planet when the Sun is blocked. The Voyager spacecrafts confirmed this in 1979, and some stunning pictures have been taken of these near-invisible rings. On to Saturn, the most photogenic planet in the solar system. Saturn has the second largest radius in the solar system, at 36,184 miles. Its gravity is weak for its size, only 10.44 meters per second squared, due to the fact that the planet is mainly composed of hydrogen and helium gas. Its average distance from the Sun is 892 million miles away, or 1.3 light hours. The upper atmosphere of Saturn is about negative 217 degrees Fahrenheit, and like Jupiter, it rotates incredibly quickly, with a day cycle of just 10 hours and 42 minutes. Even further out from the Sun, Saturn's orbital period is 29 years. There have only been 4 past missions to Saturn, including Voyager 1 and 2, Huygens, and the most recent Cassini space probe. The chance for life within Saturn is again very low, but the 82-moon Saturn system has by far the best chance for life in the solar system. Titan and Enceladus both have remarkable characteristics that provide scientists with hope that humans or other life forms could reside there. Lastly, another remarkable element of Saturn is that we are alive while this planet still has its rings. Planets like Saturn typically tend to lose their rings over time, but our ringed planet still has a massive system of rings intact. The Spitzer Space Telescope photographs Saturn's most distant ring, spanning from 3.7 to 7.4 million miles away from the planet itself. Uranus is the first ice giant, an unbelievable 1.79 billion miles, or 2.6 light hours away from the Sun. Its radius is 15,759 miles, with a very weak gravity of 8.8 meters per second squared, coincidentally the exact same as the gravity on Venus. This is because Uranus is almost entirely made of gas and is very light for its size. Uranus has the coldest atmosphere in the solar system, ranging from negative 370 to negative 243 degrees Fahrenheit. Its rotational period is 17 hours and 14 minutes, and one orbit around the Sun for Uranus takes 84 years. The only spacecraft made by humans to ever reach Uranus was Voyager 2, which collected incredible amounts of data about this second-to-last planet in the solar system. The chance for life on Uranus, again, is basically none, and although the moons Titania and Miranda could theoretically be landed on, civilization would be nearly impossible to set up and maintain. What's very interesting about Uranus, however, is that not only it has a ring system, but it also rotates vertically instead of horizontally. Its axial tilt is 98 degrees compared to Earth's more moderate 23-degree tilt. Scientists think that there must have been some huge collision that caused such a drastic rotation of the planet. Moving on to the last planet in our solar system, Neptune is the only other ice giant, the fourth gas giant, and the fourth planet to have a ring system as well. It has a radius of 15,299 miles, which is just smaller than Uranus, but Neptune's gravity is 11.15 meters per second squared, decently more than Uranus. This brings up a very interesting fact. Neptune is smaller than Uranus, but has more gravitational attraction. How can this be? In reality, Newton's law of universal gravitation states that gravity depends not just on size, but on the mass of the object as well. Neptune is more dense than Uranus, making it more massive, giving it the stronger gravity. Neptune lies an incomprehensible 2.793 billion miles, or 4.16 light hours away from the Sun on average. Its upper atmosphere is the second coldest in the solar system, at negative 353 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason that Uranus is colder, even though it's closer to the Sun, is because of the atmospheric composition of Neptune. Both ice giants have a significant amount of hydrogen and helium in their atmospheres, but Neptune has methane mixed into its clouds as well. Methane has greenhouse properties that allow it to trap heat, so Neptune's atmosphere is just a bit warmer than Uranus as a result. Neptune rotates on its axis once every 16 hours and 6 minutes, and takes 165 years to complete an orbit around the Sun. The only man-made spacecraft to ever reach Neptune was Voyager 2. Chances for life within Neptune are not likely, and although the moon Triton could support a human lander in theory, colonization that far from the Sun is not practical. These 8 planets are like silent monuments lurking in the dark, holding secrets from anyone who observes them. But if you get close enough, they'll tell you a story that goes back to when our star was born. These planets have witnessed 4.5 billion years of history, quietly watching from the vast abyss of space. We may never fully understand the secrets of these 8 planets, but as long as us humans are alive on our small blue marble, there will always be hope.